I've always believed you can tell when something big is about to happen. Like there's a shift in the air, a low hum under your skin. You don't know what it is, but your body feels it before your brain can catch up. That's how it felt the night my best friend Evan crashed on my couch. It wasn't supposed to be anything. Just two guys hanging out after dinner, watching reruns and finishing off a six-pack. Evan had just broken up with his girlfriend, and he didn't want to be alone. That was normal. He'd come over before, plenty of times. We'd grown up together since college, and even though we were both 26 now and out in the real world, we were still close. Closer than most. I always told myself it was just friendship. Evan was one of those guys who was effortlessly attractive. Tall, lean, tan from all his time playing soccer. He had this one dimple grin that made waiters throw in extra fries, and girls forget their boyfriends. I'd seen it more times than I could count. He never noticed, or at least he pretended not to. And yeah, I'd crushed on him a little in college. But I got over it. Mostly. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. That night felt different, though. He showed up at my place late, close to 10, with a hoodie over his head and a duffel bag hanging off one shoulder. He looked rough, like he hadn't slept in days. I let him in, didn't ask questions. That's what we did. We didn't talk about feelings unless we had to. We watched TV for a while, made dumb jokes, laughed about this one landlord story he'd told me before, but still managed to make sound new. I gave him the good blanket and said he could have the couch for as long as he needed. But then, around midnight, after our second round of beers, he looked over at me and asked, "Hey, can I crash in your bed tonight?" I blinked. "Yeah, sure, man. You okay?" He shrugged. "Yeah, just don't feel like sleeping alone." There wasn't anything suggestive about the way he said it. Just tired, broken up, lonely. Still, something about the way he avoided my eyes made my stomach flip. We both stripped to our boxers. I left the light off, letting the city glow spill through the window. It was quiet, the kind of silence that felt full instead of empty. We lay on opposite sides of the bed, backs to each other. I could feel his body heat, though, like he was closer than he usually would be. A few minutes passed. Then I heard him shift. "You awake?" he whispered. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice low. Another pause. Then he said, "Do you ever wonder what it'd be like if we'd ended up with different people?" I turned my head slightly. "What do you mean?" His voice came even quieter. "Like, people who already get us, who already know everything." It was a weird thing to say. Not bad, just unexpected. But before I could think of a reply, I felt his hand, slow, tentative, rest lightly on my side. I froze. He didn't move, didn't say anything else. He just left it there, warm and steady. I waited for him to take it back. I waited for him to laugh, or say it was a mistake. He didn't. "I don't know what I'm doing," he finally murmured. "I just don't want to be alone tonight." And that was the moment everything changed. For a moment, I didn't move. Evan's hand stayed exactly where it was, resting lightly against my side under the blanket, not pushing, not grabbing, just there. Warm, steady, like he was waiting for me to flinch or pull away. I didn't. My brain was short-circuiting, trying to figure out what the hell was happening. This was Evan, my best friend. The guy who once told me he couldn't cry during movies because it messes with my sinuses. The guy who I'd seen flirt with baristas and spend 3 hours picking out a birthday gift for his ex because she deserved something nice. So what the hell was he doing in my bed, touching me like that? I could feel his breath shift behind me, shallow now, nervous, like he didn't know if I was going to speak or shove him away. I swallowed, my throat dry. "You sure you're okay?" There was a pause. "No," he said softly. "I don't think I am." He sounded lost in a way I'd never heard before. Then carefully, so carefully, his hand moved. Just a little. His thumb brushed across the curve of my side, slow and uncertain. Not suggestive exactly, but intimate. Familiar in a way it had no business being, and maybe it was the beer, or maybe I was tired of pretending. But I didn't pull away. I shifted, turning over to face him. He was already looking at me. His eyes flicked down, just for a second, to where the blanket had shifted between us, then back up. And he didn't say a word. Neither did I. But I could feel it, the air between us changing, that weightless moment before something either happens or it doesn't. I could have shut it down right then. I didn't. Instead, I asked, "What are you doing, Evan?" He blinked. "I don't know." His voice cracked on the last word. He looked wrecked in the soft light from the window, hair messy, face drawn tight, like whatever he was holding inside was finally starting to leak out. I keep thinking," he said, "about how you've always been there. For everything. Even when I was being a freak. And now I'm in this apartment, alone, and she's gone. And I can't stop thinking about how I didn't see what was right in front of me." I stared at him. He exhaled, like the words had taken everything out of him. "I'm not trying to mess with your head. I swear. I feel safe with you. And I don't know what that means yet." My chest was tight. "Evan," I said slowly, "you're not drunk, are you?" He shook his head. "2 beers, Max. I remember everything." That hit harder than I expected. It meant he knew what he was doing. This wasn't just post-breakup grief or a weird phase. It was deliberate, even if he didn't understand it yet. "I need to know if I'm crazy," he added, like if I crossed a line. I didn't know what to say. My heart was hammering in my chest so loud I could hear it. He leaned in, slow, hesitant, like he'd give me 100 chances to back away. I didn't. His lips brushed against mine, soft, uncertain, barely there, but it happened. And when he pulled back, his eyes searched mine like he expected me to shove him out of bed. Instead, I whispered, "You're not crazy." And something in him broke. His shoulders sagged, like I'd just taken 50 pounds off his back. He let out a shaky breath, and for the first time all night, he smiled. Not his usual cocky grin. Something smaller. Real. I didn't expect anything else to happen. I figured that moment would be it. But Evan leaned his forehead against mine and whispered, "Can I stay here? Just like this?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "You can." He didn't move for a long time. Just stayed close, his hand still on my side, his face inches from mine. And even though 1,000 questions were running through my mind, I felt calm. Because for once, I didn't have to pretend. I woke up the next morning with the sun slipping through the blinds and Evan still asleep beside me. His arm was loosely draped across my waist, his breath soft against my shoulder, and for a moment, I let myself believe this was normal, that we'd always woken up like this. Then the weight of everything hit me. Evan had kissed me. He'd touched me, said things I never expected from him, and it wasn't a dream. I knew that because I could still feel the heat of his skin against mine, the way his fingers had curled slightly when I told him he wasn't crazy. I stayed still, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, wondering what I was supposed to do when he woke up. Did I bring it up? Act like nothing happened? Was he going to regret it? His fingers twitched slightly against my hip, and he shifted, groaning quietly as he rolled onto his back. I turned to look at him. His eyes were still closed, his expression relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. He looked like someone who'd finally gotten a good night's sleep after weeks of tossing and turning, and I hated that. Part of me felt terrified to lose whatever this was. I sat up slowly, careful not to wake him, and padded quietly to the kitchen to make coffee, mostly to give myself something to do. I was halfway through pouring the grounds when I heard him behind me. "Hey!" I turned around. He was standing in the doorway, hair a mess, shirt still wrinkled from sleeping in it, eyes soft but unreadable. "Hey," I said back, trying to sound casual. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Thanks for letting me crash." "Of course," I said. I didn't mention the bed, or the kiss, or how long I'd been lying there before he woke up, replaying everything in my head. He stepped further into the kitchen, leaning against the counter, watching me. "You good?" he asked. I nodded, then paused. "Are you?" He hesitated. "I think so." Silence stretched between us, thick and awkward now. All the easy comfort we'd built over years of friendship suddenly felt fragile, like one wrong word could snap it in half. Finally, he sighed. So, we gonna talk about it? I was waiting for you to bring it up, I said quietly. He gave a small, embarrassed smile. Yeah, figured. The coffee pot clicked, finished brewing, but neither of us moved. Evan looked down, then back at me. I meant it, what I said last night. I studied his face. He looked nervous. Not scared, exactly, but like he was waiting to be told he'd screwed up. What part? I asked. That I feel safe with you. That I don't know what I'm doing. That I'm tired of being around people who don't really know me. He paused. And that kiss, I don't regret it. Something in me let go then, a knot I hadn't realized I'd been holding on to. I exhaled. Okay, he blinked. Okay, yeah, I said. Me neither. He looked at me for a long time, and something shifted in his posture, like he wasn't holding his breath anymore. I don't want this to mess things up between us, he said, more serious now. You're the most important person in my life. You're not messing anything up, I said. But we can't pretend nothing happened either. He nodded slowly. I know. I poured 2 mugs of coffee and handed him one. He took it, our fingers brushing for a second longer than they needed to. We stood there in the kitchen, sipping quietly, not needing to say anything else for a while. Later, he sat beside me on the couch, not touching, just close, and when he left that afternoon, he hesitated at the door. You free tomorrow night? I nodded. Cool, he said, biting back a smile. Let's hang out. I watched him walk down the hall and disappear around the corner. It felt different this time. Like he wasn't just leaving as my best friend. I spent the rest of the day in a haze. I kept going over our conversation, the way Evan had looked at me when he said he didn't regret it. It wasn't like I expected him to come out with some dramatic confession or suddenly start calling me babe or anything. He wasn't that kind of guy. But there was something about the way he'd said it, so careful and certain, like he was really trying. And that alone was enough to wreck my focus for the entire afternoon. When he texted me later that night, still good for tomorrow, my stomach flipped. I told him yeah, kept it simple. But for the first time in years, I found myself standing in front of my closet, debating what shirt to wear, just to hang out with someone I'd known forever. The next day felt painfully slow. I kept refreshing my inbox, rereading texts, zoning out in the middle of work calls. And every time my phone buzzed, I half expected it to be him backing out, saying he was confused, that he'd made a mistake. But he didn't. He showed up right on time, 7:03 to be exact, with Thai takeout and 2 beers and a paper bag. Felt like we needed a do-over, he said, stepping inside, his tone casual, but his eyes doing that thing where they linger a little longer than they used to. I nodded. I'll grab plates. We ate on the couch like we always did, watching something dumb and familiar. Parks and Rec this time. It should have felt like every other night we'd had before. But it didn't. Because now, there was this awareness sitting between us. The way our knees brushed under the coffee table. The way I caught him watching me during a quiet moment. The way he smiled at one of my jokes like he meant it more than usual. He wasn't flirting. Not exactly. Evan wasn't built like that. But there was something different about the way he looked at me now, like he was letting himself see something he'd been ignoring for a long time. Halfway through the episode, he stretched, leaned back, and let his arms settle along the back of the couch. Just barely behind my shoulders. It was subtle. But I noticed, a few minutes later, when I shifted closer to grab the remote, I felt his fingers graze the back of my neck. He didn't move them. The episode kept playing. I didn't remember a single second of it. After it ended, neither of us moved to start another. Instead, he said, "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah." "Were you always into me?" I blinked, caught off guard by how direct it was. "Wow, okay, going straight for the awkward." He grinned, but there was something behind it. genuine curiosity. Maybe a little vulnerability, I exhaled. Yeah, I mean, not always, but yeah. He nodded like he expected that. Why didn't you ever say anything? I shrugged. Because you're straight. Or were, and you were my friend. I didn't want to lose that. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I don't know what I am right now. I'm just figuring it out. I nodded. That's fair. I do know I feel something when I'm around you. Like I'm not trying to perform. Like I don't have to be a certain version of myself. That's a good start. He looked at me, really looked at me. You scare the shit out of me, you know that? Why? Because I think if I fall for you, it won't be halfway. And if I screw it up, I don't just lose a fling, I lose you. That hit hard. I hadn't expected him to be that honest. You're not screwing anything up, I said quietly. But we don't have to rush into anything either. We can figure it out. Together. He leaned in slightly, then paused. Can I kiss you again? I didn't answer with words. I just leaned in too. This time the kiss wasn't cautious. It wasn't a question. It was an answer. That kiss shifted everything. It didn't explode with fireworks or leave us gasping. It was slower than that, softer, but there was something behind it, something that made the world feel quieter around us. When we pulled back, we didn't say anything for a few seconds, just looked at each other. His hand was still resting on the side of my neck, and I could feel how warm his skin was, like he didn't want to let go just yet. I finally whispered, still not regretting it? Evan gave a small laugh, shook his head. No, definitely not. We sat like that for a while, close but not rushed, like we both understood we were standing at the edge of something. He was nervous, I could tell. His thumb kept brushing back and forth over my shoulder, like his body was still trying to convince itself this was real. Eventually, he leaned back into the couch, his head tilted toward me. I keep thinking about how this started, he said. That night I came over, I didn't even know what I wanted. I just didn't want to be alone. And now? He looked at me for a beat. Now I don't want to be anywhere else. Yeah, that one hit me deep. The night stretched on, but we didn't watch more TV. We talked, really talked, for the first time in a long while, about his breakup. About how he'd started questioning things months before it ended. How being around me had started to feel different, and he didn't know what to do with that. I thought maybe I was losing it, he admitted. Like, how do you suddenly start feeling something for your best friend after all this time? I shrugged. Happens more than people admit, he smiled faintly. Yeah, guess I just got lucky it wasn't one-sided. It was almost midnight when we finally got up from the couch. I figured he'd leave. He hadn't brought a bag or anything, but instead, he hesitated in the hallway. Would it be weird if I stayed again, he asked. No, I said. Not weird. Back in my room, things were different. Not because of what we said or did, but because now there was nothing unspoken between us. We changed into sleep clothes in the same room, something we'd done a dozen times before. But this time, I couldn't stop watching him, the way he peeled off his shirt. The way his fingers hesitated at the waistband of his sweats, like he wasn't sure how much was okay now. I looked away to give him space, but I felt the tension humming in the air. He climbed into bed beside me, and for a while we just lay there, not touching, not talking. Then I felt his fingers find mine under the blanket. He didn't say anything, just held on. It wasn't sexual, it wasn't even flirtatious, but it meant everything. We lay like that until our breathing synced, until the silence between us felt like safety instead of fear. And sometime around 2 a.m. he shifted closer. His hand slid across my chest. Slow, almost uncertain, but it didn't feel casual. Not anymore. He rested his head against my shoulder. I felt him exhale. Is this okay? He whispered. Yeah, I said, voice low. It's more than okay. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like maybe we were exactly where we were supposed to be. The next morning, I woke up to the weight of Evan's arms still draped over me and the soft rise and fall of his breathing against my back. For a moment, I stayed perfectly still, eyes open, staring at the wall. He hadn't moved, neither had I. And everything about the way we were lying, close, tangled under the covers, his hand loosely curled against my chest, it screamed intimacy, not confusion, not accident, intention. I turned slowly, careful not to wake him. His face was relaxed, lips parted just slightly, hair all over the place. He looked peaceful in a way I hadn't seen since long before the breakup. And I felt it again, that low buzz in my chest, like I was on the edge of something important. Eventually, he stirred. His eyes blinked open slowly, and when he realized how close we were, he didn't flinch, didn't pull away. He just smiled, sleepy and unguarded. "Mornin'," he mumbled, voice rough with sleep. "Hey," I said, voice quiet. He looked at me for a long second, then rested his forehead gently against mine. "This still good?" "Yeah," I said, "still good." We stayed like that until our phones started buzzing with work notifications, reality inching back in like a tide we couldn't hold off forever. As we got up, the comfort between us held, but I could feel the nervous energy starting to creep in again. The unspoken question, what now? He pulled on his jeans and t-shirt while I made coffee. The way he moved around my kitchen felt familiar, like he'd done it 1,000 times. But this time, his hand brushed my back as he passed behind me. This time, when I handed him a mug, his fingers wrapped around mine for just a beat too long. We didn't talk about labels or futures over breakfast. We just existed in this weird, quiet space where everything had changed, but nothing had broken. Before he left, standing by the door with his keys in hand, he hesitated again. "I've got a showing this afternoon," he said, like he needed to explain why he couldn't stay longer. "Yeah," I nodded. "Go sell some overpriced condos." He laughed, then grew serious. "Can I come back tonight?" "Of course." His eyes searched mine. "You sure? I don't want to make this harder for you." I stepped forward, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. "You're not making it harder, not unless you disappear after." He smiled, and this time it wasn't unsure. "I won't." He kissed me once, quick but certain, then slipped out the door, leaving me standing there like a guy who suddenly had no idea how he was supposed to focus on the rest of his day. That evening, he came back with groceries, said he wanted to cook for once. I didn't stop him, even though the last time he tried, we ended up with burnt pasta and a fire alarm that wouldn't shut up. But this time was different. He was more relaxed, more playful. He opened a bottle of wine while he sautéed something in a pan, glancing over his shoulder now and then just to smile at me. And I realized he wasn't doing this to impress me. He was doing it to be close. Dinner was simple, just pasta with garlic and shrimp, but it felt like a date. The first one we didn't have to pretend wasn't a date. Afterward, we sat on the couch again, wine glasses in hand, legs brushing. "I told my sister I was staying with a friend this week," he said, almost offhandedly. Didn't give details. "Smart move. What would you even say?" He grinned. "Oh, hey, remember my best friend from college? Turns out I want to make out with him now." I laughed, shaking my head. "Yeah, I'm sure that'd go over well." He leaned in, eyes searching mine. "You good if we keep this just between us for now?" I nodded. "I think we both need some time to figure it out." "Yeah," he said, voice low. "But I know how I feel when I'm with you. That part's not confusing." I swallowed. "Same." His hand found mine again, easy this time, like it had every right to. We sat like that until the wine was gone and the night stretched long and quiet around us. And when we went to bed, there wasn't any hesitation. We weren't just friends anymore. That night, when we crawled into bed, it wasn't tentative like before. Evan slid in beside me like he belonged there, like he had every right to be that close. There wasn't any big dramatic moment. No fireworks. Just his arms slipping around my waist and the warmth of his breath on the back of my neck. And that was enough. I didn't sleep much. Not because I was anxious or confused, but because I couldn't stop thinking about how easy it felt. How right. At some point in the early hours, I turned toward him. He was still awake, eyes heavy but open, watching me like he was trying to memorize the shape of my face. "You okay?" I whispered. "Yeah," he murmured. "Just didn't think I'd ever be here, like this, with you." I reached for his hand under the blanket and laced our fingers together. "Me neither, but I'm glad you are." He leaned forward and kissed me again, slow, a little sleepy. It felt like the most honest thing either of us had done in years. In the morning, I woke up to find him already making breakfast. He was standing in my kitchen wearing nothing but boxers and a t-shirt he'd borrowed from my drawer, humming some indie song off-key while he flipped pancakes. I just stood there for a minute, watching him, the way his hair stuck up in the back, the way he moved around like he lived there, like he was mine. "You're staring," he said without turning around. "You're humming." I shot back. He turned then, grinning. "Breakfast in bed? Or do you want to pretend we're civilized people and eat at the table?" I raised an eyebrow. "You made pancakes?" "Don't act so surprised. I'm just saying, that's like 3 steps above cereal." He laughed, sliding the last one onto a plate. "Well, I figured if I'm going to wake up in your bed, I should at least feed you." We ate in the living room again, this time with legs tangled under the blanket we'd dragged off the bed. Everything felt absurdly domestic. Warm. Real. After we cleaned up, Evan sat back on the couch and looked at me. "What are we doing?" he asked. "Right now?" I replied, playing dumb. "Arguably nothing productive." "No, I mean this. Us." I nodded slowly. "You want to define it?" "I don't know," he admitted. "I just don't want it to be a phase, or something we pretend didn't happen when things get messy." I sat down beside him. "It's not a phase, not for me." His shoulders relaxed. "Good, because I think about being with you, and it doesn't scare me like it used to." That felt huge. He'd never said anything like that before, not even when we were at our most vulnerable. I leaned in and kissed him, soft and deliberate. And when I pulled back, I said, "Then let's just figure it out. No pressure, no timeline, just us." He smiled. "Yeah, us." That night, he didn't even ask if he could stay. He just tossed his keys on the counter and brushed his teeth with the extra toothbrush I'd had sitting in the drawer for months. And when we got into bed, his hand found mine again, like it had 100 times already. Only now, I knew it wasn't going anywhere. A week passed. Then 2. Evan kept coming over. Sometimes with groceries, sometimes with that lopsided smile that meant he'd had a long day and just needed to be near me. Eventually, he stopped calling it coming over. One night, as he stood in the hallway holding a laundry basket he'd carried from his place, he said, "Is it cool if I just leave some stuff here?" I grinned. "You already do." He smiled back but didn't say anything, just stepped inside and kissed me like it was the most normal thing in the world. It started to feel like our rhythm. Wake up, brush teeth side by side, go to work, come back to the same couch, the same bed. We weren't in a relationship. At least we never said the words. But it felt like one. Something steady. Something real. One night, while brushing our teeth, he looked at me through the mirror and said, "You're kind of the best part of my day." I spat into the sink and smiled. "You're not so bad yourself." He chuckled, but his eyes held mine. "Just letting you know. We never said I love you. Not yet." But the way he pulled me close at night, the way he reached for my hand without thinking, the way he always made sure I had coffee in the morning, those were the things that said it first. Maybe one day we'd say it out loud. But for now, this was enough.